The one thing FF has for it that's making it really, oh my god, can I restart? Let's restart. Can I restart? WoW had this idea of time walking where you go, they have like event weekends or, you know, small periods of time where you go back and play like level adjusted old content. Your stats are downranked to the level of old dungeons, and then you go through them. So it'd be like Mists of Pandaria time walking weekend, right? And you'd go through like the Mists of Pandaria dungeons, and theoretically the stuff should be a bit more challenging because you're being downscaled to kind of simulate if you were in Mists of Pandaria. The issue being WoW changes so much, and they have so many borrowed power systems, which is like progression systems and character power systems that only exist in that expansion and then leave and just never exist again. Every expansion in WoW has so much of that it just doesn't work well when you time walk back with like modern talents and modern all these changes thrown into the old content. It's always trivialized. And they can go in and balance it, of course, tune the numbers, but like they're not going to fucking do that. That kind of also happened in FF14 over the years where, you know, a lot of classes changed, skills changed, they like rebalanced potency values of attacks and stuff like that. But the one key difference is like if you go into like a level 14 dungeon as a monk in FF14, oh wow, I thought I was picking a random number, but I got 14'd. You're only gonna have the available abilities you would have at that level. Or if you're like level 80, but then you scale to level 50 dungeon, you're still only gonna have all your skills up to level 50, and you can't use any of the ones above. What that creates, though, that I never really gave enough credence to, is there's like breakpoints for like learning to play at certain levels. So if you want to go back and do the level 50 raids, which by the way, you can sync your item level down and remove all of the like exponential buffs that you get if you fail an encounter to make it like as close to the old experience as possible. You can do that natively in Final Fantasy XIV. And then you go back and suddenly you have like a new character to learn how to play, sort of, because it's, you know, the level 50 version of your rotation with like maybe some different priorities and some different like skill orders that you do based on certain things that you wouldn't get at like it's just a cool experience that's been in the game for so long. It's baked into the experience. And then you have WoW talking about time walking, and I think time walking is something that could, based on all of our experiences in FF14, time walking in WoW could have been something so cool if they put work into it. But I guess hindsight is also 2020. Because I was thinking in my mind, like, imagine if they even put like a fraction of the work they do into like these ephemeral systems that only happen during like island expeditions. They put so much work into that. They just kind of put it in there, and like they get feedback, and then they're just like, it's fine. And you know why it's fine the way it is? Because they know that after the next expansion comes out, they're just gonna get rid of it. They're not gonna need it because they just won't bring it into the next expansion. They won't like iterate on it. Basically, I don't know, it feels like every system follows that sort of pathway for Blizzard. That'd be so cool and WoW. I would love that. I would love if I could go back and do old raids with people, and like, I mean, you know, Blizzard, kind of small indie company, so maybe it's a big ask, but imagine if you could like do a TBC raid in modern WoW and sync to like the old talent system. How fucking cool would that be? Like, one thing that I've noticed from watching all these other like WoW streamers that I often watch playing Final Fantasy XIV and doing old, like, it's like doing the hard mode of a level 50 cap raid is still pretty challenging for players that are just learning the raid itself, that don't already have like the mechanics memorized and all that. Imagine if like you can just go do ICC with minimum eye level, Wrath of the Lich King talents, and your gear is scaled down. I mean, it's Blizzard, so like they wouldn't be able to release Wrath of Lich King Classic then, if that's the case. That would never happen. But I'm sitting here like daydreaming, and it actually sounds like it would be really fucking cool. The one thing FF has in its systems that makes it easy to kind of down rank to low level stuff is the gear. Like I said, for me is a bit boring in that it's just like primary stats, secondary stats. Most gear doesn't have any cool effect. Like visually they're cool. Stat wise, there's nothing like any procs or bonuses or set bonus, like shit like that doesn't exist. So if WoW were to do like a time walking with min eye level and that kind of shit, where you do raids with like old talents, and then let's say in the newest expansion there's like weird gear proc sets or like legendaries, right? You'd probably have to turn those effects off. But again, small indie company, like they have the budget. There's documentary on NoClip about Final Fantasy XIV's development, and the director, he mentioned how he had their team when doing the A Realm Reborn redesign for Final Fantasy XIV. He had their team play WoW and just a bunch and like other MMOs and draw inspiration. He always touts how like if WoW never existed, FF14 would never exist, because they drew so much inspiration and took what they liked from the game and changed what they didn't like based on their vision for FF14, and that's how it became the way it is now. I like to imagine a world where if Blizzard were able to replicate that sort of mentality in their design, we would get something like time walking, minimum item level, talent synced raids. And I'm daydreaming about it now, and I would have so much fun doing that. Because then in my head, if I'd never experienced Legion raiding, I wouldn't have to wait for some shit like Legion Classic or try to find a private server or any of this shit and then worry about like fragmenting the player base. And I fully understand, by the way, that this is just from a PvE perspective. This doesn't change the open world experience. So I think WoW Vanilla Classic was the only real expansion where the open world was thriving and existed. So I understand the value of Vanilla Classic existing, but from TBC and on, World PvP was kind of a meme. World content didn't really exist. I think most people would get similar, if not exactly the same satisfaction, if they were just able to time walk like raids in retail. When I say time walk in WoW, I have to stress this. Gotta have the old talents. Gotta have the old like systems that were in place for that expansion, because that's what would make it as close to the old experience as possible. Whereas now all they do is they take like your current gear, they scale it down, but you still have like new talents, your new class skills, you're like shitting on everything. Oh, that would be another thing, not just talents, but also abilities, right? They would probably like try to as close to as possible, maybe prune some abilities. I don't like, it's obviously a big undertaking, but imagine